So coaching does matter more. Yeah. It's confirmed. It's confirmed. Yeah. Coaching does matter. Yeah. I see it. I see it. I see it. Hey everybody, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic, and welcome back. We are continuing the NFL 2025 recap, and we are currently in the NFC West. And we're going to talk about a team that has, in my humblest opinion, had the best season with the worst shortcomings ever, and is not the Denver Broncos, but is very, very close. Today, we'll be talking about the San Francisco 49ers, as they have... they did a lot of good things. And for some reason, it still feels like it wasn't enough. Alright, so before we get to the nitty-gritty, as some of you already know, I am a Buccaneer fan, and for the past few weeks, I have been hearing, Mike Evans is gone! Mike Evans is gone! Mike Evans is gone! And then just recently, by the time of this recording, Levante David just retired. So, two key, Buccaneer draftees that have cemented themselves in the Buccaneer legacy are gone. Some to a different team to continue their career, and some to say, thank you, I did enough for football. So, without getting too emotional, the big question I will have to say is for Levante, thanks for the memories. Good luck to you in your future endeavors outside of football. And for Mike Evans, please stay healthy, dude. Please stay healthy. Please stay healthy. I'm not trying to be a bitter fan, but to my Buccaneer fans out there, which by the way, we are the most toxic, obnoxious fan base ever. And I feel like the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Patriots dynasty were not this, so entitled to have to deal with week in and week out on local radio stations. Annoying as hell. But for the Bucs fans out there, we have to eventually see what we are without Evans. Is Mbuka, Tez, Baker, we got to see what we do without Evans. And Levante, he was 14 years, man. He was going to go eventually, so sooner than now. So that's for Buccaneers, and we'll talk about the Bucs in the future. But right now, it's about the San Francisco 49ers, a team that, when I said they surpassed expectations, they did. The two main cornerstone of the 49ers, to me, was been their defense, led by, and I hate to say this, former defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, who went to become a new head coach, just like that, in Tennessee. So, good luck to you, man, in Tennessee. But, when Nick Bosa tore his ACL, I think like for week 3, and he's defensive player of the candidate, a defensive MVP every year. Okay, so your biggest pass rusher and your biggest acquisition is gone. And then Fred Warner gets hurt midway through the season against Tampa, of all teams, And you still managed to go, well, I had him as high as 11-6 season with a potential drop-off at 8-9. So that was my thing. And with the Nick Bosa and Fred Warner injuries, it kind of felt more that maybe the 8-9 might be enough. And you're just hoping that Christian McCaffrey will not get hurt. And by the praise by the football gods or the Horn Devil God, whatever you want to choose, McCaffrey managed to stay alive the entire season. But not so much about the other players. Brock Purdy missed some time. And Mac Jones, I think, salvaged his potential future. But he did agree to stay with San Francisco, which might have been the smart decision long run. But George Kittle missed some time. And Brandon Ayuk literally just took his entire career and paycheck and flushed it down the toilet like most people do that don't have a CTE problem. So, looking at it like that, you guys went 2-5. And with the injury to your two major cornerstone captains, not to mention a lot of your star players on the offensive side that wasn't named Christian McCaffrey were out, and also your starting quarterback was out for a considerable amount of time. There was a lot of shortcomings on your future that you going below 500 or even just, like I said, 8 and 9, like I said, would not have been too crazy because you guys got the short end of the stick. And I'm really starting to believe the conspiracy about the facility and the electrical power plant that's causing things happen. And you're having a guy like Mike Evans, who has recently, season in season, has had hamstring problem become more of a problem with his productivity. You put him in a facility where literally healthier players and younger players are suffering hamstring injuries. You see why I feel scared for Evans. But you went surpass expectations. You won a playoff against Philadelphia, and then Seattle smacked you through the core of the earth on a 41-6. And I can't help but feel like I don't know how much Nick Bosa and Fred Warner could have helped in that front. 41-6. Yikes! 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 And before we get too far into the video, was Juwan Jennings still not signed? The time of this recording, he has not been signed with anybody, and somehow not signed with you guys. San Fran, explain that why. I know he was a 7th round pick in 2020, late round pick, but I thought he had done enough productivity, not to mention Brandon Ayuk is not there, so Evans, you sure? You sure? I know Evans wants to be the man again because Tampa, he was kind of, surrounded by a bunch of very talented players, so maybe his attention will not be as high, even though he is a great. But still, why not Juwan Jennings? I'm still San Francisco. Explain that to me. Why Juwan Jennings, at the time of this recording, has not been signed by you guys or literally by anybody? I know his productivity went down a little bit, but yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll get signed, maybe get picked up later. But yeah, that's still a mystery. Cause I thought Juwan was developing well with San Francisco, and I kind of feel like he need a good number 2 to go with Evans. I mean, Ricky Pearsall's still there, but yeah. Anyway, let's talk about your best game. Best game for the 49ers to me was week 17 versus Chicago. That was a great game. That was a fantastic game. Love the game, especially when you watch a game when you have no real stakes on who wins or who loses. So it was a great game, and I think it was a great game for both teams, including Caleb Williams and Brock Purdy, to potentially future of the NFL. I'll go as far to say that 2 future of the NFL type players, young quarterbacks coming in, both threw over 300 yards, both had multiple touchdowns, both had methodical drive, both had exploding plays, not as big as McCaffrey, but it was still a great game. It was the best game because there was a small part of me thinking that maybe Chicago was for real. And looking at the Rams game, maybe it was a lot closer than we thought. But to me, it was very much, this could be, the return of old. Bears and Niners in the playoff. Bears and Niners, both dynasties, returning to promise after decades of mediocrity and inconsistency. And neither one of you went any further than I thought. But the fact is that you both played a great game. And for me, it showcased the Niners, without Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, going against a very formidable team, especially led by Benny Johnson, who's finally getting his engines in order with the Bears. This was a game that could have dictated that is what the Bears are going to be for years down the line, but also for the Bears are this year. And even though it was a high-scoring game in the last, second heroics here and there was a good game for you guys because it proved that you guys can take the punches and then give it back. Take the punches, bob and weave, roll, pop, and take it, and then come back to it. To me, this was your best game. Your worst game was the next week. Yeah, your worst game was literally the last game of the season. Against Seattle. Yeah, that was not your bestest game, guys. Just want to throw it out there. One, you're at home. You guys were at home, and with there was a potentially talks to better position yourself for playoffs positioning, and yeah, because a win against the Seahawks would have put you up higher in the playoffs, but I still feel like you're still probably destined to play the Seahawks. So in hindsight, 2020, nothing really much changed. The reason why it's the worst game is it was a game that you basically can argue that it was also not a good game for Seattle, even though they are the winners. But if you just watch the game, you're just like, it is the equivalent of watching the last preseason game when you know that 99% of the players are going to be the third or fourth stringers player that are trying to make the roster. But you got tickets to the game and beer's free and parking's free, and you're thinking, I got nothing to do on Saturday night, so I'll go watch it. And you're sitting there going, the only thing that was good about the game was the uniforms. The uniform was like fly. So yeah, that was just a really bad game, and to me, it put in the sense of, are these guys gonna be like one and done playing Philadelphia? Now Philadelphia had his own problems, so maybe you could take advantage of their dysfunction. But that game was really really bad. I mean, Juwan Jennings had 35 yards receiving. He was the leading receiver. McCaffrey literally had his number of yards, 23 for his jersey number 23, and Brock Purdy barely had 120 yards. So it just felt very much like, I don't know what it is. I know division foes have this different you know psychological effects on team that sometimes records go out the window, but this was just like, not after a big win against Chicago, and then you go on this game against division foe, and you kind of like laid a massive egg. I do maybe believe psychologically that maybe all the stress was for Chicago, and you kind of like a little depleted, and Seattle comes in basically with a big chest pumping out there. I get it. But this was just a bad game, because I'm sure Niner fans are going, oh boy, oh no respect, no respect. We're going to the playoffs. Hey, boo boo, we might get bumped. You don't know, kind of moment. So it was the worst game, mainly because it just felt like, man, great, bad. MVP goes to Christian McCaffrey. I'm not giving sugarcoat it. I mean, if unless you're a Niner fan, looking at the stats of the 49ers, McCaffrey was literally a thousand. He had nearly like 900. Let me see. I'm just going to that here quickly. He had 924 yards receiving and over 1,200 yards rushing. He was your offense. And then if you look closer into the receiving category, Juwan Jennings was your number 2 wide receiver, and he played in 2 less games, and he had 55 receptions for 643 yards. And then George Kittle, who was also hurt for a lot of part of the season, he also had about 600 stuff. So basically, McCaffrey had like 300 yards more offense. And my biggest concern was, for a lot of Niners fans, was that maybe he's getting overgassed. God bless you. But there was that feeling of, you can see why Mike Evans went to San Francisco. You can see why he went to San Fran. You can see why. Like, you can see why. I mean, George Kittle playing 17 games, he might have 1,000 yards, easy. But you can see why Mike Evans went to it, and boy, you don't want to put Chris McCaffrey in the same category next year, because there's no guarantee in this NFL world what can happen. But yeah, McCaffrey, he was the offense, and especially, I mean, I will give a complimentary MVP to Mac Jones for proving that he is a talented quarterback that can compete in this league, that can win games, and just needs right coaching, which then goes back to my main topic point in the past was, coaching matters, guys. Coaching matters. I mean, look what Jared Goff has done. Look what Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, look what they have done with different coaches. Maybe not the greatest of all coaches, but just different scheme and different opportunities. Heck, Geno Smith had opportunity in Seattle for a few years, so you never know. So in my humble opinion, coaching matters. But yeah, Mac Jones gets a complimentary MVP token for me, but Christian McCaffrey was clearly all of 49ers. Grade for the 49ers, I'm giving it an A. And the biggest thing is that you lost 2 of your captains on defense, and your defense, led by Robert Saleh, like I said, coaching matter, was still effective. Even though I felt like every other week the person that replaced them got hurt. But good coaching scheming, good tenacity. They worked on it. And I'm not saying, I mean, the Niners were not the dominant force with that Fred Warner, the mastermind, and Nick Bosa, the berserker barrage on the edge there. But they were still formidable. And there were times where the Niners defense did a lot to make up for the shortcomings of the offense at times, and sometimes in crucial situations. So, say what you want to say about that, but I feel like the Niners do deserve an A, and it's emphasized more on what star power players they had not had for a good 10 plus weeks of the season. Now, when it comes to draft picks, I always have this lovely argument with myself of what do they really need? And you can't really say they need a med kit and a good Gatorade to help with their injury problems, but what do they really need? And the biggest thing I kept thinking was defense. Not because of Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, but looking at it on the defensive side of the ball, what is the thing they just feel like, they need? I feel like with the Mike Evans acquisition, I feel like they kind of addressed their offense. Plus, their offense is not complete thing, even though I'm so worried about the Juwan Jennings situation. Looking at your receiving pool right now, 49ers. You got Christian Kirk, you got him, man, brought a bank. Congratulations on that. Demarcus Robinson, Jordan Watkins. Sure, okay, offensively, but for me, I'm going to go defensively. I'm mainly going to focus on line, mainly defensive interior, defensive lineman. So, and you guys picking 27th, and there's could be John Lynch, former Buccaneer, he's been reported to go in the draft pick. So, with the 27th overall pick in the 2026, NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers could select Keldrick Falk, defensive end, Auburn. I can't help but feel like when Nick Bosa come back healthy, have another young passer on the other side, pincer attack, I can't help but feel like that will definitely help out the defense tremendously when it comes to two dynamic pass rushers. So Falk will be the guy, and plus I feel like Falk is kind of flirting with like top 15 to top 20, and some teams may just say maybe not, and he might just happen to slide into the Niners pool, and I just feel like his athleticism is enough to be like, he's worthy of a late first round pick, especially you want to put on with Nick Bosa, something that I feel like the Lions are trying to do with their situation this year, potentially get someone else to go with their 97 for their 97. Coincidentally, both 97s. So, yeah. But if they want to go interior side, I will go with the 27th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. The San Francisco 49ers will select Caleb Banks, defensive tackle, Florida. He's a monster in the middle. He's the monster in the middle. Good run stopper, has the ability to get the pass rush going, and I just feel like with Nick Bosa on the edge, rushing inside, we need someone to collapse the pocket inward. Young, vibrant, aggressive with Banks. I'll go with him inside. I feel like he reminds me a little bit of an Ed Oliver in that he feels more athletic than the position that he's in. Not saying that he is Ed Oliver. I'm just saying that he's a little bit more athletic for a defensive tackle than some people would consider a defensive tackle to be. That's not a gripe. We all know that they're players that are a lot larger, but a lot faster for their size. It happens. But if they happen to go offensive line for protection purposes for the quarterback, I have Monroe Freely, offensive tackle from UGA, because I feel like a lot of the offensive tackles will probably be picked up probably before 20th. And there'll be that situation where it depends on who's available. They might consider doing offensive tackle. And Freely from Georgia feels like the perfect thing. He's a little high for a second round, but he's a little bit low. Scratch that, reverse it. He's a little high for a first round, but he's just the right spot for a second round pick. So scratch that, reverse it. He's in the right spot. Not completely a second round, but not completely a top first round pick. Then again, I would believe the top 45 picks in the draft are first round caliber grade, even though some of them happen to fall in the second round. That's my thoughts. So that's who the players I think the Niners will get to make up for it, and I believe with Evans' acquisition that technically counts as another draft pick in their favor. And that's the 49ers. We have two teams left, and I think the Super Bowl champion deserve to have another chance to wait. Let them be the last of the greats to go. So that means next time we'll be talking about the Los Angeles Rams, which not a bad season. Some controversy, some injuries, and Matthew Stafford basically dictates through him. But we'll see what the Rams do this offseason and what they do in the recap what they did, and basically just how much closer were they to a Super Bowl champion to potentially crown them as champions and not Seattle. So I think we both agree it was either Seattle or the Rams that were going to win the Super Bowl, and Denver was not because of Bo Nix, and New England, let's be real, the proof is in the pudding. So that'll be that. So until next time, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic. Thank you so very much for watching. Hey, 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 hey.